It's affected it in many ways. I'm 39 and I'm without children. I'm the mother of 3 dead children. I've had to work a lot with God on all of the healing. The first abortion at 16, at Capitol Records, you can't have it. In my head, I'm like, I can't have it. Didn't tell anyone, had the abortion. 19, Pussycat Dolls, now I'm told, gotta get rid of it. 30, I'm raped, and I wanted to keep it, and then the man that raped me, that was an ex-boyfriend, told me that he's gonna fight to get custody of the child. And instead of me going to a lawyer or I so went into this perpetual cycle, right? It was a perpetual cycle, the mode of, we'll just get rid of it.
Hi everyone, you're very welcome back to Gript Media. I'm your host, Maria Mains. Today I am joined by the Canadian-born singer, songwriter and producer Kaya Jones. Kaya is best known for her role as a member of the Pussycat Dolls. Growing up in Las Vegas at the age of 16, she signed to Capitol Records. In 2003, she auditioned and was chosen from thousands of girls to become a member of the pop group The Pussycat Dolls. She ultimately left the group and has gone on to have a very successful solo career. At the age of 26, she founded her own record label, and in 2019, she won a Grammy for her collaboration with gospel artist Jason Crabb. Kaya, we're so delighted to have you with us.
My first time in Ireland. My grandmother is half Irish, so I'm excited to be here.
So we've mentioned a bit about your background there. You have a very big public profile. You're well known internationally for your music career. Would you take us through, Kaya, a bit about your background growing up in Las Vegas? You obviously entered the entertainment industry very young at the age of just 12. So what was your life like before you entered the Pussycat Dolls?
My life before entering the Pussycat Dolls was pretty interesting. My biological father had a lot of issues with mental health. It was very distressing on my mom. And ultimately having a stepfather that came into my life that truly blessed my life, and then losing him to incarceration at the age of 12. It really was eye-opening. You find out about the world when you have a father that's mentally ill and sick. You understand when you're dealing with your dad and when you're dealing with something that's not your dad. At 2 years old, I understood that wasn't my dad. Who is this other person in my dad? So that kind of shifts, I think, a child's brain a bit to the things that we can't see, right? So I think I was very spiritually maybe aware as a child how to read people because of my father's illness, which it was so demonic. It was rooted demonic. And now, having work in the world of faith and belief, I now understand. But at the time, it was hard to understand who is this person that takes over my dad, and makes him not want us around. And then my stepfather, being polar opposite, incredible human being, but he sold his company. And in 1993, if you sold your contact list and you were involved, so he sold his contact list to a company that did telemarketing, and because he sold the company. And so the company being sold to this other institution, they decided to charge my father with telemarketing, even though he wasn't a telemarketer. And so he then was incarcerated. That was eye-opening as a child. But that was some of the strange road that I had to walk through as a kid. Yeah.
And Kaya, would you say, in terms of your background early on, that sort of the family breakdown and your parents not being together, that had a lasting impact
100%.
on you?
100%. It was eye-opening for me not seeing, the first half of my life, I didn't really have a man I could trust. That is not healthy for any child. Statistics have shown that even a child just raised by the father is the same outcome as the child raised by the mother and the father. That's how important a father is in the home. So I definitely feel that was kind of, it was a disappointment. I can definitely say it was a disappointment. And maybe even opening up the promiscuity as a young woman to not value yourself when you're not really loved by a man, to know what a father's love is. And ultimately, God has now given me this. But it's important for women, especially, to have the love of their father and know what that feels like, so that when picking a spouse, they choose a good one. Yeah.
You were just 12 when you entered into the music industry. You were very, very young.
Very.
And you speak about an experience you had where you were watching TV and Whitney Houston came on the screen and you said, I want to do that. I want to be like her.
Yeah. I was 6 and it was the Super Bowl, and she was wearing a tracksuit. And I just remember she had just such power. And it wasn't like she was wearing anything fabulous or her makeup wasn't, she was just so gifted. And I just remember thinking, I want to do that. She just stood there and sang, and everyone was just enamored. And I remember I really wanted to do that. So that was where the dream started, yeah.
You signed to Capitol Records. You were just 16 years of age. Were you, it was your mother who encouraged you, who sort of put you on that path. She was a creative as well.
Yeah.
And that was very much what you wanted to do.
It was what I wanted to do, yes. And she was very much, whatever you want to do, I support you. So she was super supportive of my decision to go into the music industry. And I've had friends who parents are not as supportive, but she understood where I was coming from, and this was something I wanted to do. And she was very supportive. It's so much so that she gave up a lot of her life to help my career. Yeah.
You auditioned. There were, I think, 5,000 other girls there, and you were chosen in the top 3 to join the Pussycat Dolls. You were only 16.
Yeah.
What was that experience like? What did that feel like to be chosen? Your dream is coming true, essentially.
Yeah. It's amazing. It was an amazing feeling to know that you were the best for that moment. You did the best, and you won a position in a very important group. It was exciting for sure. I don't think I had understood, the complexities of the next part, right? I just knew this is a dream, this is my dream, and it's happening. And, then of course, when the bubble pops, when you start to realize that it's not what it's thought to be.
What were those first years like in the band?
The first bit of time was difficult because 3 of us were brought in as singer-dancers to girls that were dancers. So there was girls that were in the group before us that were removed for room for us. So we didn't realize that there was kind of already a bit of a disconnection. And so it wasn't like a group of girls that got together and created a band. It was half of a band with a new group of girls coming into this band. And that created, I would say, not the best friendships. Me and Nicole were the closest, and then I would say Melody I was close to as well. It created a bit of a disconnect with the women, which wasn't bad, because you're going to have disconnection with people that you work with. Not everything is always perfect. But when it started to become really controlling of what we ate, what we wore, what makeup we wore, how you wore your hair, no tattoos, no piercings. If you have a piercing, remove it. And then you start to realize who you talk to, who you date. If you get pregnant, get rid of it. You start to realize that there's this wait, what is this? This doesn't feel... And had I not been signed before that, now I'd signed to Capitol at 16, Pussycat Dolls at 17, but at 12, I signed to as Universal and R. Kelly. And I never experienced that. So I'd had some knowledge of the industry before coming into this one. Had I not had that knowledge, maybe I would have been, oh, this is great. But I never had people tell me what I ate. I never had people tell me I was not allowed to date and who I should have dated. I never had people tell me, this is what you're going to wear. This is how you have to do your hair. You're not allowed to have curly hair. You're not allowed to have, if you want to wear nude lipstick, you look trashy. You look like a playmate. You need to wear red. So it was so weird to me that there was like this control, and counteracted with the issues of the women in the group. Now we're only paid $500 a week. You're a hired cast member. I have my paycheck stubs because I knew people would never believe me. And now the ones that sing are singing for everyone, right? And now executives are trying to sleep with you. So now you're adding, it was like one thing after the next thing after the next thing. So it wasn't just one thing. It was multiple things that this is not what I signed up for. And this is what I'm showing young women.
One of the defining moments as well that you speak about was seeing that little girl in the crowd. I think it was 2 little girls, and she said, I want that's a Pussycat doll. And at that moment you felt that you were not a suitable role model, and that was
right
when things changed for you.
Yeah, it was. I was in process of losing my child, and I was wearing virtually nothing, and I was told how fat I was before going out into the audience by the owner of the group. She said specifically, it looks like you have pizzas sewn onto my ass. Mind you, I was probably 60 pounds thinner than I am now. I was like 100 pounds, not even. And I was losing my child. And then, a little girl is looking at me saying, oh my gosh, you're the most amazing thing I've ever seen. And that for me was when I knew I had a responsibility to that child and other children that was not really, I wasn't aware of, because up until that point it was just about me. And I really then opened my eyes that everything I did had a cause and effect, and that I was influencing children that looked up to me. And she couldn't see that I was going through an abortion. She couldn't see that I was going through abuse. But if I continued on this path, I was allowing it to be okay. So that was the aha moment for me, where I knew I couldn't continue on that trajectory.
And this was just, that brings us to abortion, which is why you're here to speak at a pro-life event. Would you talk, Kaya, a bit about the impact of abortion on your life? You are post-abortive, and you speak about this and how it's affected your life.
It's affected it in many ways. I'm 39 and I'm without children. I'm the mother of 3 dead children. I've had to work a lot with God on all of the healing. The first abortion at 16, at Capitol Records, you can't have it. In my head, I'm like, I can't have it. Didn't tell anyone, had the abortion. 19, Pussycat Dolls, now I'm told, got to get rid of it. 30, I'm raped, and I wanted to keep it. And then the man that raped me, that was an ex-boyfriend, told me that he's going to fight to get custody of the child. And instead of me going to a lawyer or I so went into this perpetual cycle, right? It was a perpetual cycle, the mode of, we'll just get rid of it. And so I speak from a place of, I've made so many poor choices in this area specifically that I deeply regret. And I want young women to just hear the stories. It's not really about, oh, I think I know better than what you're going through. It's really from a place of make better decisions than what I did. as someone who went through these abortions, you feel like you're missing a body part after you've had one. It is psychologically very intense. It can have a very severe delayed effect. So sometimes it's not immediate, it's later. But there are spiritual ramifications with murder. And it is a murder. Life is life, right? We can't only care about one life and then not care about other life. I see people that are very vocal about the war and babies right now that's all over television, but they don't talk about the babies in the womb. So we have to be, if you care about this, you have to care about that. Life is important. So, but the spiritual side of this is very, very serious. There are a lot of young women that are making these choices and not realizing that it will have a cause and effect.
When you speak, Kaya, about you were 16, one of the most striking things and saddest things really about your story is that when you became pregnant, it was very much, this was not like this great choice to have an abortion. It was get rid of it, get rid of the baby. And that brings up the question, would you say abortion is very much connected to the entertainment industry, that sort of culture that's there almost makes abortion inevitable?
Yeah, of course. Because sex sells, sexy sells. And for some reason, we have never really shown the beauty of a woman's pregnancy. We keep showing the beauty of a woman just being desirable, but there's something really powerful and beautiful about a woman carrying a man's baby into this world, right? That they have created this thing and now it's going to come forward. That is the most beautiful thing in this world. To see how our bodies as women, we can grow to bring life and then go back to our size before baby. It's incredible, the ability to be a woman. But we have cultured and created a visual stimulation to the society that, pregnancy is not beautiful. And when you do that, you create this sexualization of women in only one area, that they have to be very petite, small, not pregnant, available. And so that sells single, available, and you want to be her as a young girl, and as a young boy, I have a chance to be with her. So we've sold this cultural idea to singleness and sexuality that I think has created a disconnect with the beauty of pregnancy.
How do you think the music industry, the entertainment industry views women? Is it very much like that you're more an object? It's about sexualization, it's about looking stimulating to men, yes, as opposed to actually your talent, your character, all of those other things?
100%. In the music industry, you're a commodity, you're cattle, you're a product. You have to appear a certain way. I think it's gotten better, but when I was in when I was in that group, and we're thinking like even Britney Spears, if you hear some of the things she has spoken about with this industry, it's very similar. We've used even the same kind of terms. She used a term of feeling like she was trafficked. I said I felt like I was in a prostitution ring. I mean, the choice of words, I think, says a lot of how it feels. And the industry has cultural significance in the society. The industry has perpetuated, women to look a certain way and be a certain way, men to be a certain way. And it's now trickled into societies where, marriage isn't cool. Swinging is. Babies aren't cool. Abortion is. It's become fashion. And I think that's where the industry has to be careful, because now we're seeing it trickle into news where it bleeds into other things. And I think the industry has stayed very quiet for a long time on doing better. And we are seeing culturally the significance of that.
You would say that you felt exploited when you were in that industry that time in your life. Yeah. And you made headlines when you said you likened it to being in a prostitution ring.
Yeah.
Because it was very much well, if you sleep with this certain
Yeah.
person, then you're going to get ahead.
Yeah.
And people they hit back at you over those claims, and
They did.
They said that this is not true. How would you respond to the sort of reaction to those comments?
I think the reaction just gave me validity, because if I really didn't have a voice, you wouldn't have responded. You responded because you know there's truth in what I'm saying. It was hurtful to hear, considering how much I helped the group, singing on records I never got credit for. Imagine that. Imagine you doing your work and no one knowing you were a part of something. That was painful to hear, but I understand that they're trying to protect the idea of what they were. Look at how many of us have children. What is there? 2? Now maybe 3 out of the 7 women. We didn't all have sex in this time. Come on, open your eyes. This is, I hope one day everyone can be more honest. And I think they will when certain people pass away. When certain people in the industry are no longer in power or around, maybe the girls will feel strong enough to speak about it. But all of us went through forms of very serious abuse. I was just the one that didn't want to tolerate and wanted to say how I felt. And, after so there was a shooting in Las Vegas that was very public, and I was on stage, and then the group sent out a press release that I was coming back to this reunion. I was so upset that they were using the shooting, because I was on stage and it was in the media, to publicize the return of the group, that's when I started speaking about it, because I said, well, you didn't even call me, you're using me in your press release. So that's interesting. They use you in a press release, but you weren't part of the group, or you're not true. I try not to let it affect me. I think now it's just about doing what I can for God.
It was around 2017 that you came out, I suppose, as conservative.
Yeah.
And there was an interview where you said, I pray to Jesus. You said that publicly. You said you got calls that same day sort of telling you can't take that back.
Yeah.
And you referred to the fact that you were DJing for Calvin Harris one month. The next month you couldn't get work.
Yeah.
And you felt that you were cancelled because of your beliefs.
100% cancelled. Cancelled for Jesus was really like, is this happening right now? I was cancelled big time, that I pray to Jesus, that I support a conservative institution, because I do. I believe in the family nucleus. I believe in the Word of God. I believe that we need to be more careful, especially now as you see what was happening in the world. It's interesting how so many people were mad at me for being conservative, and now more of them have become even more conservative, because the whole world is changing very quickly. So even those that were very liberal are kind of now nudging closer to the center. It's very interesting to watch. But yeah, I was canceled big time.
Did you ever regret being so outspoken about your beliefs?
I think for sure when you can't get work, you're like, what did I do? But to be honest, no. I am happy I did do exactly what I did, because that led to me singing the gospel record with Jason. And, I was so honored. And I remember the manager I had at the time was like, you're not being paid for this. And I said, but I've never sang for Jesus. This is the first time I'm going to get to sing for Jesus. Like, what an honor. I'd do it for free 10 times over. I get to sing for our Lord and Savior. And I'm really happy that I went forward with the record. The management at the time, thank God, no longer my manager. But yeah, I would never have gotten that album and been a part of that. And then the whole album won a Grammy. And our song was the first single off of that album. It was such an honor. So that then changed things, because the Grammy is not something you can buy. So a lot of people think, well, the music industry, you can buy awards. You can, but the Grammy is not a buying award. The Grammy is actually given to only voting members of the Academy, and the only people that can vote in the Academy are other people that create music. So it's it's all the artists in the industry that vote, your peers. And I think that means so much more, that they knew where I was coming from in the Pussycat Dolls. They knew what I had said and spoken. They knew that I was a conservative, and they still thought that I was talented enough to be a part of a winning record. So I'm grateful for that.
Wow. And in terms of speaking out and your conservative beliefs, and obviously probably one of the most controversial beliefs is the fact that you are pro-life. You speak about life issues. And you have said, one of the interesting things you've said is that you feel that there should be a warning sort of attached to abortion, like we have with a packet of cigarettes, that you have the health risks, and that women are going into this and they just see it as a procedure and there are going to be no implications mentally, emotionally. Do you think, in Ireland and other countries outside of the States, that something like that should be implemented here as well?
Yes. I have been adamant about this, like a Surgeon General warning, because look, you need to know what you could face. As young girls, don't take their rights away, but let them be aware of what they could potentially deal with. Suicide rates are up in young women because of abortion. Depression is up because of abortion. Huge regret that falls later in life when you don't have any children. These are things that no one warns you about. And so even the spiritual ramifications, we don't even discuss it. The church doesn't even discuss it. Don't talk about it. Don't bring it up. God forgives all. At the same time, you're killing a piece of God. When He's given you a fruit from heaven, children are literally a blessing and a gift to this world. Could we have the cure to cancer, the cure for AIDS? Could we have had greater technology in space, aviation, and media, in all forms of this world, would be so much brighter for all of the lives that could have been here. When we think about how many babies are aborted per year, it's really frightening. I'm happy to see so many of you that are young and speaking about this, because it shows me that there is something happening with God in the youth, that some of you that are being vocal are so brave, because you're coming from a place of your culture around you is not for it. So you guys are really on the front lines, and I'm just, able to share what I've been through in hopes that women would make a better decision. But a Surgeon General warning on the physical side, the health measures, women over 40 who have not conceived are how much more likely to have breast cancer. These are actual statistics. We don't talk about how much babies are a part of our prosperity in the flesh.
Ireland is obviously a small country. In the last year we had 10,000 abortions, so the rate has tripled since we legalised abortion in 2018, and it's very much sort of speaks to the fact that abortion is sort of seen not as a big deal anymore. Do you think that's what happens everywhere when abortion is legalised?
Absolutely, because it becomes desensitized. I've spoken about what is a line. Once you've crossed it, then you know what a line is, right? But if you've crossed the line and abortion becomes just part of the everyday normal, then there's no discussion about it. So of course it's going to continue, because what happens is it becomes a form of contraception. Instead of wearing a condom, instead of abstinence, it's now, just have an abortion. You don't have to have it, just have an abortion. I've heard young women talk about, I've had 9 abortions. And these are very young girls, thinking, do you understand what you're doing? This is where the church really does need to start speaking more.
As someone who's had repeat abortions, how easy does that become when it's something that's so normalised, that's something you've just touched on, that it actually becomes pretty easy?
It becomes too easy. The first one is the hurdle, but then it's like, I just get, okay, it's no big deal. It's like going and getting your nails done. This is how it's seen in society today. And it is way, way bigger than that. I hemorrhaged and was very ill after my second abortion. I also was performing with the Pussycat Dolls while I was still bleeding. I was very ill. It's created me being allergic to birth control pills with estrogen levels changing. There are things that happen that we have to be honest with in the physical side of how it's a medical procedure that is killing a baby inside of your body. The baby is attached to you, but it's a separate, completely new, never before seen DNA that will never be seen again. It's unique. And you are doing something that can not only kill you if there's complications, it can cause damage to your womb. At a later date, it will affect you. Maybe you'll be 70 when it does. But why would we want to risk that when there are organizations that will help you if you choose to keep your baby? There's also amazing people in this world that are waiting for a baby, that would do anything to have a baby. Give your baby a chance, a fighting chance. Maybe you're not ready to be a mom, but there is someone who is. Maybe you're scared that you're going to do it alone, but there are organizations that are there for you to do it.
You also say that this is something that affects men as well, and we don't really talk about that. But you have had men reach out to you and say, I'm struggling because of this.
Yeah. I have had, and I'm not even exaggerating, thousands of messages from men. It's astounding how many men feel unheard. I've had men message me, I think about my baby all the time. I forced her into doing it. I paid for it. I begged her not to do it. I've had every kind of message. I have 2 now, and I think about my 3rd that never came. I never had, and I think about the one that I made her abort. You know, those kinds of conversations, because now they're adults and they're older. And then they start to think, who's going to take care of them now that they're old? Where are you? Where is your family? What do you have to show for this life? You know, that's the thing about children. They take care of us as we get older, and they bring forward new life, and it's a full life. So when you kind of cut off that line of family and generations to come, it's very serious. But the amount of men is really shocking. I did not expect that. I have had many women contact me and say, what do I do? I'm pregnant. I don't know what to do. Some have kept their baby, and I get pictures of the babies along the way now that they're here, which just makes me so happy, because it means that, you know, I guess in a way I feel like, oh gosh, we got one more here, you know. But for the men to see and hear how many men have no one to speak to, this is where I really have to wonder, can we get some men who have, you know, done this in the industry to be more vocal? Because I am messaged a lot by these men, and again, I can only say, I'm here for you, I'm praying for you, you will see your children again. I really can't minister past that, because it's also not biblically correct for me to be ministering to men, so I can only do so much. But I do my part to show that I'm a sister in Christ for them, that I'm praying for them, and that God has forgiven them. Yeah.
One of the things that groups in Ireland, like pro-life groups here, have sort of criticised is the fact that our government has sort of designed our abortion law so that when they record the number of abortions every year, there's no breakdown of, you know, in the UK there is, for example, there's a breakdown of the reasons why women had abortions, you know, socio-economic reasons, different reasons, the different time frames and things. In Ireland, we rejected, our government rejected proposals to sort of keep detailed statistics, which means that we don't even know the reasons why women are having these abortions. So it sort of begs the question, how can we bring down the abortion rate? How can we tackle the issues that women are facing if we don't even keep that information?
Wow. You guys don't keep that information. Mm-hmm. So that's shocking, because that would help to know, is it rape? Is it, you know, what is it? Is it just a form of contraception?
We can't find out if they're repeat abortions either. That's not kept either. So it does raise a problem.
That is a huge problem. especially if it's one person having many, many, many. There might be something else going on.
Kaya, why do you think the media, like broadly speaking, they don't really want to cover stories like yours? They don't really want to hear stories from women who have suffered negatively because of abortion. That's not a narrative that we hear at all.
I think most of the media is getting funded by a lot of these organizations that we don't agree with. And they want to not rock the boat because they get a check. That's the truth. And they know that I say that because I know the media. I'm in this world. It's all I've ever known. There are organizations that support these institutions. It's a big business. I mean, let's be honest. It's not just about the money you received to remove the baby. It's also organ harvesting, sales on the black market of these organs, science testing, things like this. It's then we get into a rabbit hole of how dark it goes. Do most of these young women know that their child is going to be tested or used, or their DNA is going to be? Do you know that? I mean, most of them don't probably know that it becomes medical waste and they can do whatever they want with it. May have a different effect on you if you realize, I got rid of my baby and now my baby might be being used in some form of a medical testing or organ harvesting or any of those things. It can get very dark when you start to realize the seriousness of this. But the media likes to control what sells, and it doesn't sell to show how serious this and dark it is. It's better to say, my body, my choice, pro, choice. That's a better sales pitch. And it's also the powers that be, big financial people that are funding the media and funding Planned Parenthood and things of this nature. But you also have to look at where these facilities are being built is in the lowest level of poverty. So they're not there for your health. They're there to keep poverty in check, and you to never get out of it. So realize that this is a form of control. Yeah.
What do you say to those people who watch this interview and who really truly believe that, women have a right to abortion, that you have had this really negative experience, but that might not necessarily be other people's experience?
No two experiences are the same. But there are more women that have had my experience than those that haven't.
Do you have a message, Kaya, to Hollywood?
Yes, make pregnancy beautiful, because it is.
Do you have a message to young girls, young people?
Yes, don't sacrifice who you are for money, fame, or attention. Realize that you are beautifully and wonderfully made in God, and you're worth more than being sexually received. Be yourself and focus on always, not compromising who you are for anything. A job, a boyfriend, family member, anything. Focus on loving and being who you are, because God made you beautiful.
Thank you so much, Kaya, for joining us, and we hope you enjoy the rest of your time in Ireland.
Thank you so much.